So we're moving on to pattern 3. You'll notice then we have, once again, noun phrase, but I've also given this subscript of 1. So I need you to capture that. This is noun phrase 1. Maybe the font's a little weird, but that's a number 1. Noun phrase 1, be. Once again, we're still working with our be verbs. And then noun phrase 1 again. All right, so once again, we're dealing with patterns 1, 2, and 3 are all about be verbs. So you can have a be verb with an adverb. You can have a be verb with an adjective. Now we have a be verb with a noun that follows it. So noun phrase 1 is still called noun phrase. It's still the subject. So even though I put that little subscript of 1, don't get thrown off. It's still your subject. Then here's our be verbs. Once again, that same list we've been working with. And then we have noun phrase 1 again. Now, once again, in traditional grammar, when I would teach this, I would call this the predicate nominative. You notice I keep using that word predicate. We have a predicate adjective. Now we have a predicate nominative. And all that meant was that we have something in the predicate half of the sentence. It's an adjective sitting up on the main line. But in this time, we're going to have a nominative, which is our way of referring to something which is nominal, which is another way we'll refer to nouns. And so therefore, predicate nominative is letting me know there's a noun that's going to follow that verb. Now, our author is going to refer to this as the subject complement again, which can be confusing. And that's why I don't usually like to use that term, because when our author, says subject complement, it's hard to tell whether she means subject complement as an adjective or do you mean subject complement as a noun, because it's synonymous. Once again, remember, complement means to complete. So you're completing the subject. So what's happening is this predicate nominative is completing that subject. All right, let's take a look at what it's going to look like on a diagram. So there's our traditional form. It's going to look just like a pattern 2. You'll notice that once again, right after I've split my subject from my verb, I have this slanted line, does not go all the way through. And now I have a perfect place for my subject, my be verb, and now I have my place for my noun phrase 1 again. All right, so it does look a lot like pattern 2. I'm going to hide this. And so that's true. Baghead. And so in this case, we call it a subject complement. That slot right here is devoted to the subject complement. If I can just get my cursor to show up. There we go. This is devoted to the subject complement. It doesn't matter if it's an adjective or a noun. This slot with this slanted line lets me know that it's a subject complement. It's up to us to know when I look at it, is this an adjective and therefore it's going to be a pattern 2, or is it a noun and therefore it's a pattern 3? The other thing we have here is this little subscript of 1. And what that lets me know is that the noun that is sitting here is the same noun which is sitting here. They might be 2 different nouns, but they're referring to the same thing. So whatever I'm referring to here is being referred to here. And that's going to be important as we venture into a pattern 8 or a pattern 10 later. But this time, what we have is those 2 nouns are basically referring to the same person, for lack of a better word. All right, so let me give an example. President Clinton was a saxophone player. I guess it should be is a saxophone player because he still does play the saxophone. And so here is our noun or subject, President Clinton. Here's our to be verb, and then here's our other noun. And I want you to see that saxophone player is basically renaming President Clinton. So therefore, they're referring to the same thing. Thus the reason there's this little 1 here, because this noun is referring to this noun. All right, so this is one of the rare times you're allowed to put more than 1 word on a line, because his full name, or at least the name we're using in the sentence, is President Clinton. So therefore, I could put that as 1 full noun. Usually, I wouldn't let you put more than 1 word on a line, but in this case, that's his name. Here's our to be verb was, and then here is we have a saxophone player, but he's not a saxophone, but he's a player. So therefore, we get to put the word player right there. There's a joke in there somewhere, I think. Anyway, so here he is. As a saxophone player, renames the subject, and then we'd say it's a player and then saxophone player. Once again, these describe it. This is a determiner, and this is the adjective. It's a noun, certainly is an adjective, but there we have a traditional pattern 3. All right, let's do a little non-traditional version. Oh my gosh, there he is. Look at him. That's a bad tie, sir. Very bad tie, but some sweet glasses. As a side note, I used to play the alto sax, so hats off to any of you who are listening right now who also play the saxophone. All right. Let's take on the second example. Neither the Phillies nor the Pirates will be World Series champions this year. I really don't follow any baseball, but we'll just go with it anyway. So in this case, I can see that I have subjects. I actually have 2 subjects. Instead of using like an and, I used a correlative conjunction. I remember correlative conjunctions come in pairs. So here's that neither nor. So there's that pairing. So I have a subject and then I have a verb. Instead of having just simply a traditional to be verb, I used an auxiliary. Here's will be. Once again, another time where I'm going to break the rules where you can treat that as all one big verb phrase, will be. And then I have my noun phrase back here, World Series champions this year. All right, so when I build this guy, I know ahead of time, thank you, Baghead, I know ahead of time that I'm going to have to split that subject because I actually have two. And I cannot put both Phillies and Pirates together. It's not like President Clinton, which is all one name. These are two separate entities. So therefore, I'm going to split that. And you can split any line. So before we split something in the back half, back in pattern 2, we split our adjectives. You can split your verbs. You can split your subjects. So think about how I can take that subject line and split it. So it's going to look like this. All I've done is I've taken that line and I've split it in half. So now each of the nouns get their own separate line. Here's my little dashed line in between. They come together nice and evenly, and then off they go. Now, this little space right here, it's stupid, but it's not really traditionally grammar, like you'll find it in a grammar book, but in Marsh's own language, I refer to this as being the nub, for lack of a better word, nub, N-U-B. And what's happening here is this guy is really a little bit of space that you might need. You might need this sometimes. You may not, but sometimes you're going to need this little bit of landscape here, this little acreage, which I call the nub, which is this little tiny little space, but you might need it. And so sometimes when you're doing a split, you end up moving this line a little too close. So you don't give yourself enough nub. And nothing's worse when you're in the middle of diagramming a really long sentence and you realize that you did not give yourself enough nub. And then you're going to have to do a lot of erasing. It's probably more times than anyone has ever used the word nub on a screencast. But you know what? I'll take that as a prestigious reward or award, rather. There we go. All right, so enough talking. Here we go. Our two subjects are Phillies and Pirates. We're using the correlative conjunction neither nor. So maybe small handwriting. You have to squeeze that guy inside that triangle. So neither nor is going to have to sit in there. There's your conjunction, neither nor. If you can't, maybe you can just simply put NN. I'll know what you mean. But there's your conjunction. Our whole verb is will be. And then down here, World Series champions this year, I'm going to pick my main noun. I'm thinking what noun am I renaming them? I'm renaming them champions. Now, either I'm saying neither nor will be champions, but still, this is being renamed with the noun champions. So champions gets to sit here. Let's fill in some easy stuff like the determiners and our adjectives. So we have World Series, which I'm going to treat as one big name. I am going to treat that as one big name. We have the Phillies. We have the Pirates. All that looks amazing until I get to this mess. This year, that's tough. The thing about this year is it's got to fit somewhere in the diagram. So you got to think about it logically. First off, it's telling me time, and time is always going to be adverbial. Something that tells me time is adverbial. And so think about it logically, that the word this describes year, but collectively, the whole thing tells me when. Remember, an adverb should connect back to a verb. So this whole thing should connect not to champions, even though it's next to champions. It's not the Phillies or the Pirates, but it goes back to this verb will be. So this year has to touch this. But it's not this will be, year will be. But it's this describes the year. So this touches year, and then year touches the verb. Now it's going to look like this mess. All right, once again, this is sometimes tricky for people to grasp, but once again, this describes year. So it's this describing the year. Which year? It's this year. And you're like, okay, so this describes this word. So that's why he touches them, but everybody has to be in the same parallel direction. But then collectively, this year, particularly year, is describing when it will be. So this is where we have sort of this little determiner really describing this noun, which is all working as an adverb. It gets kind of confusing, but I like these little guys. This is tricky, but I know that you can do this. All right, this is pattern 3. I think we are all ready to start practicing some of this madness, okay?